Google Search is going through this transition into being a frontier AI product.
It's pretty incredible what we're seeing. It can help make plans, it can think.
It's the largest scale distribution of Gemini across Google, probably of any AI product.
So you can basically get to the frontier model, but deployed at search scale fast for 1.5 billion people.
That's crazy.
To me, that's pretty mind-blowing that it can do all of this.
What's the impact long-term of this, search doing all this stuff, but also just like the way that people look for information?
I mean, I think that ultimately it's going to make humans more productive, efficient, and informed. The mission of Google and search has never felt more current.
Hey folks, welcome back to Release Notes. My name is Logan Kilpatrick. I'm on the Google DeepMind team. Today we're joined by Robby Stein, who's the VP of Product for Google Search. Robby, I'm excited for this conversation. Thank you for taking the time to sit down.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited too.
So Robby, let's dive in. I think you and I had a conversation the other day, and you said something that's actually stuck with me. And the comment that you made, and I'd love your reaction to it again, and then also for us to expand on this conversation, is that Google Search is going through this transition, and I think I've seen this as a user, but is going through this transition to being a frontier AI product. And I love that. I love that vision. I think it's super compelling and exciting, but can you sort of elaborate on what that actually means in practice? And I think people have a lot of preconceived notions about what Google Search actually is.
Yeah, well, first, the goal is for billions of people around the world to truly ask anything of search and to get great, high quality information and access to the world and the web. And so for us, there's a couple components there. One is a model that truly understands the web and understands all of Google's information, so it can be the most helpful and highest quality. The second piece is a set of experiences that make it easy to understand that information. And then the third is operating really at a unique scale that's fairly unprecedented. And so right now, people can ask a pretty natural question in search. You could say, how do I remove a ketchup stain from my jeans? Not saying that happened to me, although maybe it did, without ruining my jeans. Put all that into Google Search, and an AI overview is highly likely to show up with helpful content and links to dig deeper.
I'm a DAU of AI overviews, which also has like the largest scale distribution of Gemini across Google, probably of any AI product.
So Google Search is the largest AI product in the world.
That's crazy.
And there's about 1.5 billion users everywhere using Google Search and our AI experiences now per month. So that includes AI overviews, includes multimodal experiences where you take a picture or use voice and then see an AI response. I could take a picture actually of some books in this room and say, if I'm a fan of these books, what else would you recommend? And Google Lens, with a visual recognition that it has, can parse the books, call upon an AI to help research and get more information, and then present back to you information that could be really helpful for recommending other books like what you showed. Those are completely new ways that people are using search, and they're driving a lot of the growth of search as well. And what we've learned is that there are frontier models increasingly powering those, and leading to people to go even deeper with projects like AI Mode.
You want to give me the quick sort of just TLDR, actually, perhaps for folks who don't know what AI Mode is, like what is AI Mode? What does it actually do? Why should folks be excited?
So AI Mode is really a frontier search experience that lets you truly ask anything in Google Search. So you don't have to just type in keywords. You can just type in long sentences. And then what happens in the background is using our frontier state-of-the-art model. It can help make plans, it can think, and it can basically do the Googling for you a little bit and issue queries to do research and find information that can produce this really helpful response with links to click in and go deeper and the opportunity to ask follow-up questions. And it's available in the US and India right now.
Can you double click on the query fan out that happens in some of the different agentic AI experiences? I'm not sure that I have full context of what that actually means.
So how AI Mode works, and we're going to also be bringing this new capability into search as well, like through AI overviews for your hardest questions that you ask. But there's models now that are within search that power AI Mode that are able to really understand your question, and then off of your question, generate a fan out of Google Search queries. So it effectively uses Google Search as a tool. So if you're asking a question like, things to do, in Nashville with a group, it may think of a bunch of questions, like great restaurants, great bars, things to do. If you have kids, things to do with kids, and it'll start Googling basically. All of that is now possible in this process of fanning out these Google queries and then tapping into both the context of the web, but also all of these real-time information systems. That's all happening behind the scenes every time you type something into AI mode.
Yeah, one of the other exciting new things is that 2.5 Pro is now becoming available to folks inside of Search with it, which I think is really, really interesting. I'm curious, like with 2.5 Pro coming in, obviously it's, as someone who loves 2.5 Pro, it definitely takes longer to answer certain queries. How do you think about that from like a product experience perspective of like where to draw the line or how to find that balance as models get smarter, but also take a little bit longer in some cases?
I think ultimately you want to find the balance of the right model size given the need to fulfill the question at the like highest level. Some questions just don't need a really advanced model.
Yeah.
You can take there's famous examples I see all the time on social media where it's like, think of a 7-word, sentence, and a model goes thinking, like making a plan, like producing an outline, like checking work, like fixing a mistake. And it's like, this sentence is exactly 7 words long now. I don't know if that was 7 words, but something like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't need to do that. So for very simple questions, I think people expect instantaneous responses. If you ask me to compare 2 universities for a kid that's about to go to college and understand the differences between them, what students say, the teacher satisfaction rating, student satisfaction ratings, teacher ratios, it might take a few seconds because you're going to do, maybe it would invoke, or you would invoke like a deep research feature that may take even minutes. And that might be completely okay because it's a big time decision and you're willing to wait for that, to have that enhanced reasoning and go the extra mile for that kind of a question.
We also have deep search.
Yeah, so deep search, it has the ability to think and make a plan, and it might actually do, instead of maybe dozens of queries, maybe it's looking at hundreds of queries and really going deep to find information. So for example, another example that you'll like, 'cause I have lots of search examples. I was trying to buy a safe because I have some birth certificates I got for my daughters and I want to save them.
I was actually just thinking about getting a safe for my
Okay.
certificate too. So we're on
Okay,
this
so
wavelength here.
so what's interesting is it's a really complicated purchase. They can be pretty expensive, and there's lots of ways to think about them. There's fire safety ratings where there's like codes I don't understand, certain implications on insurance rates. If they have above certain levels of protection for burglar protection, you potentially get a break on certain insurance, like for if you have valuables. There's some fire resistance ratings I didn't understand. It's actually complicated. And so I put all this into deep search in the prototype version I was using like a while back. And it spent, I don't know, like a few minutes looking up information. And it gave me this incredible response where at different sections, like, here's how I have to think about this. And it had a framework for each of these various areas. It's like for fire, if you're really focused on, documents, let's say, and valuables, you really want to preserve, let's say, fairly, family heirlooms, things that like you can't replace, right? Like, so fire matters a lot in that example. And so it's like, here are how the ratings would work, and here are specific safes you can consider, and here's links and reviews to click on to dig deeper. And it would do that for each of the areas. And it kind of blew me away. So that's the kind of use case. It's a complicated thing. You're willing to wait for it, but hopefully it would save you, we think, hours of research potentially with one query.
Yeah, I've got a quick follow-up on this. Do you like notify the user when it's done, or like is there some like in AI mode you'll like see that this thing finished and you can like click back into it, or like are you
exactly?
Okay.
So you select this intentionally. So there's a deep search pill in the where you can go input questions in AI mode. And so it says it's kicking off like a deep research thing. It could take some time, and you see it working, and it gives you some transparency into what it's doing. So you have a sense of it. But then if you just leave or you like close it somehow, it would basically drop it into your history, and it would give you a little alert that it finished, and you would see a little, I think, like an unread almost icon, so you can go back and get the report there.
How much is the model customization something that you all think about as like a way to hill climb on product experience? Like, and the other alternative of this is like, obviously the models just keep getting better in general. So like, I'm curious how you think about like, we want to go and build custom stuff versus like, model's just going to keep getting better for us.
I think it's always going to be a bit of a mix, because I think each, obviously as an application and an end-to-end experience that, billions of people use, there's always going to be needs that are unique. And there's going to be experiences that you want to really dial. And whether it's in the modeling layer or a different layer, I think is an open question, but you probably want some amount of customization. But you also rebase quickly. And so every time there's a new model that comes out and then it gets deployed into search, there's huge gains in quality and helpfulness just because the model is just so much better.
Yeah.
So now I have a model that can think and can plan and get things done. Okay, well, if there's a future version, while it's more efficient in that process or can think a little bit differently or better, it'll just be better naturally, which is a really nice thing. And so we've started to make that process a lot easier so that search can operate at the frontier.
Yeah. And did this happen by default with 2.5? Like I'm assuming there was a 2.0
Yeah.
Gemini experience powering search or a 1.5 experience.
Yeah.
Has that felt like materially different for you as someone
Yes.
who's like trying to build these experiences?
Yeah, the way that they're being rebased and adopted are now extremely quickly.
Yeah.
It's happening extremely quickly. And so you can basically get to, the frontier model, but deployed at search scale fast. And I think that is a really key thing. And that's required a lot of work, obviously from search, from the infrastructure teams and from the Gemini team, the DeepMind, Google DeepMind teams to get done. But that's pretty cool if you think about, we have a frontier family of models now going directly to users that, and also the frontier models are particularly useful for these hard questions. So even for AI overviews, for things like math and coding, really advanced, complicated questions that'll tap into these really large models. But that can be done, for 1.5 billion people, and that's pretty unique.
I think part of this transition for search becoming this frontier AI product is like people, the mental model of how you use search actually changing in some contexts. And I'd love to, like, we were chatting off camera about like one of these being just like the way that you like bring context into search. And historically search has been like very keyword driven, and like how that will change in the future as far as like even just like the UI of input and stuff. So I'd love to expand on this and hear where your head's at.
I mean, we really want it to just be natural and easy for people to get effortless information. You shouldn't have to think about where you ask this question. So you just go to Google, wherever that is for you, and you type in something. It could be with any arbitrary length or kind of like complexity. So you could copy and paste in like a massive block of code. Or you might just have a really long, fully expressed question with lots of constraints. Like you want to go to a restaurant, but it's with a group, and one of the people in the group has an allergy, and you really just can't do barbecue because you just had barbecue. And like you'd actually put all of this into search, and then we would be aware, okay, it's a kind of hard question. Let's get a model that can think and maybe plan. You may even see thinking steps start to appear, and then boom, you get that information. And so starting, now actually, these kinds of questions are tapping into these state-of-the-art models that have this enhanced knowledge and understanding of the web and Google's information to answer these questions, and that ends up powering some percentage of things that we're bringing into AI overviews now. So that's the vision, is that this just naturally occurs, and we will bring you AI to the forefront wherever we think it's useful. So one example, for instance, is people come to search for a lot is inspiration. Image search is a really popular destination. So one of the aspects of AI mode that we've been working on and we announced at I/O recently was visual AI mode, which means you could ask a question like, what's a good outfit to wear for a rehearsal dinner in Southern California, near a beach. And it could actually give you a visual reply, not textual, with all of the context you can click on and see where you could buy those items. And if you followed up, and like, actually, I like lighter colors and less patterns, it would understand that and be able to do this multi-turn experience. And so those are examples of how, by thinking about it from the lens of informational and search needs, obviously, if you search for, just one celebrity name and you get this beautiful visual overview, like maybe actually an AI related thing's like not super helpful there, right? And that's why it typically doesn't show up for those questions. And then the search box and people's expectations of what you can do with it ends up mattering a lot. And so even just adding opportunities to upload photos and use camera, something that we see is enormously popular. All those things are things we're working through and thinking about.
Robby, we were talking off camera about some of the success that visual search is having, and it's actually the fastest growing thing inside of search right now. I'm wondering, can you double click on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty incredible what we're seeing, but we're seeing people who use their camera to ask questions. They might take a picture through Google Lens, through the apps. They might take a screenshot or use Google Circle to Search on Android to ask questions about what they're looking at. And what's powerful about this is it allows you to tap into the knowledge of Google into your everyday world, or to ask questions about what's on your device. And this is one of the fastest growing parts of search. It's actually up 70% year over year. It's particularly popular with younger users.
Why do you think this is? Is it just like, is it just like a,
It's just so natural and easy to just take your phone out and take a picture of something. And it's a predominant way people communicate, particularly younger users. And I think it also just allows you to ask questions about things that you just couldn't ask before. And so we're seeing a couple of big use cases for it. One is around shopping. So people will take screenshots of what they see on social media or on YouTube or, you know, in magazines, and they'll be like, what's this outfit that I see and they want to buy? Look, right? That's like a big example. Another one could be taking pictures of your shoes, shirt, like what are things like it. Homework is a big one. People can just take a picture of it and get help and like actually understand the visual orientation of your homework and segment the questions. And then there's questions about this world. So people ask, you know, what's this flower? What's that building? What's this plaque? What's this book? And really it's just your creativity is the only thing that is limiting you.
yeah, I feel like actually another reason that this is probably true to give a shout out to the Gemini multimodal team is like the model has state of the art performance. So I feel like it's this like great mirroring of like what users want, a product experience that makes it really simple. And then actually like the core model is fundamentally like the best model in the world at multimodal, part of the core Gemini vision and mission.
Exactly. It's also another great example of bringing together state-of-the-art models with Google searches, you know, history of quality, because there's been so much work done on visual intelligence and visual understanding with image search and image recognition. And when you bring those together with the Gemini models, it's very powerful. Let's say you took a picture of the room and you asked about patterns of a rug. Well, okay, what's a rug? And where does the rug end and where does the wall start? And like, where's the rug end and the bed where to start, or the bed frame, right? Like there's actually logic in even just selection and understanding what a rug is, taking that sample, finding things like it. And then when you ask a follow-up question like, oh, but I want colorful. Okay, well, what does colorful mean in image space?
Yeah.
Right. And so you're able to map that into this like representation that can pull that need out of like an image corpus. That's like really unique between Google and Gemini's strengths.
Another parallel question that's actually related to sort of like toolbar is the sort of multimodal experience of search. And you mentioned sort of image as one of those modalities. But I think speech is actually part of that experience as well. And I'm curious how you think about like, is there a world where you're actually just like talking to Google search and instead of like reading a bunch of links on a screen or something like that?
Absolutely. I think part of being a frontier AI product is having all modalities available to it. At the end of the day, there's just knowledge encoded in this model that's able to produce information and experiences, basically. And that model should be flexible. And so one of those modalities should be voice, and it even could be live voice. And so we've recently shipped an experiment actually in labs for Search Live, which we announced at I/O as well, which allows you to have a natural conversation with search. And so in the same way that there's this model that knows how to do these fan out queries, look up information for you, tap into all of these, you know, real-time information systems like the Google stock information or sports scores or shopping products or locations, well, the model can do all the same things, but it's been designed to be pithy, conversational, and like have a back and forth with you. So if I'm in the car now, I can just talk to Google and like work on a project. So if I want to just like planning a trip, I could be like, hey, what are these things going on in this location I'm going to? What are cool restaurants? What do people do? I don't like that. I like that. And then when I get back home, I'm on my couch, I can go back into that thread in AI mode and like kind of resurrect that and then keep going. And then when I'm at work, I could go back the next day with a full monitor and then go deeper and save some stuff that way. And so that's neat because you can now have it like across all the contexts of your day, but it's still tapping into this search kind of frontier model that we built.
Yeah, I love this. One of the questions, and again, as a DAU of AI mode and of AI reviews, but also as a DAU of the Gemini app, I'm curious like how you think about the interplay between these two, where people like where the Gemini app is going to go relative to where search is going to go. Like I have my own sort of mental model as a user, but I'm curious from your perspective, like as you're designing these experiences for people, how you think about the difference.
Yeah. So, for what we're trying to solve is really what people come to search for. So we really think of it as AI search and really AI helping you with these informational needs. And the things that we see a lot, whether it's obviously research and learning, but it's also shopping and browsing. It's also information about, health, for instance. There's lots of things people come to Google for every day, and we're really focused on these informational tasks. And then obviously with Gemini is a universal assistant. It can do, it's a lot wider, I think, of what it's trying to be. And so I think in the future, it can do everything from help, vibe code with you to deploy apps to, reorganize your life for you in ways that it will be really helpful. Obviously there's some overlap there with general informational questions, but I think that that's how they can work together. And so it's typically, if you're the type of person, you're coming to Google search, you have an informational question, this is an AI way to get the most powerful version of search. In the same way, if you're in Gemini a lot and you're using it for all these interesting productivity use cases or code or whatever it might be, you can also ask questions there too. And that also obviously has lots of Google search grounding and Google search enhancements as well in that experience.
One of the tangential questions I was just thinking about, and I don't fully know, like, I think you probably have a better worldview of this. Like, I know how it works from a Google user perspective, less on the actual, like, behind the scenes product side, but like Google Flights and like some of these like experiences that like show up in search, I think of them from my like developer perspective, AI builder perspective as like tools perhaps
Yeah.
that search has access to. Is there any world where like it's like integrating with those things like fully as like we would traditionally see as like
Absolutely where it's going.
Awesome.
So first of all, already we've integrated most of the real-time information systems that are within Google.
Okay, cool.
So it can make Google Finance calls, for instance, flight data, those kinds of like movie information. There's trillion facts in the knowledge base, in the knowledge panel at Google. 50 billion products in the shopping catalog, in the shopping graph. It's pretty incredible with merchants updating their listings because obviously they want people to see the correct price and correct information for anything that they can buy. It's actually updated, I think, 2 billion times every hour or so. So like all that information is able to be used by these models now.
Yeah.
But then going one step further, what are the experiences that you can build to make this really shine? You know, one of the principles that, you know, we've been thinking about is, and it's something I think Google historically has been great at, which is the right response for the given the question. And so if you ask about, for instance, a stock question, to explain the trends of a stock in language is like a very onerous thing to consume. Let's say you have a question like, you know, the top 5 CPG companies and their stock performance over the last 72 days. Let's say you wanted an arbitrary number like that. The model would actually have reasoning involved. So it would first figure out, well, what are those top companies? So it would do some analysis and do this fan out query process, look up the top companies. It would then need to do a tool called Google Finance to get real accurate real-time information of each ticker. It would then do a tool call for a visualization library to chart those things with a description of the trends. Same thing with products. Like you'll see a visual grid today of certain products. If you ask for, let's say, headphones ideas, it'll give you this list and a little tray. And if you click on it, it'll open up the sidebar that has all the pricing information and all that data that Google has, you know, typically available for people in search, all within this AI experience. Same for restaurants. Like whenever I look up restaurants, it gives me this list. It puts it on a map, gives me the locations. When I click on it, this panel comes out and it has all the photos integrated. So I can see the vibe of the restaurant. I see a video of like the dessert coming in, and that's critical for me actually solving the journey of like picking a restaurant versus seeing it in text. And so I think that's where we've been headed. And I think that starts to already be true for areas like finance, shopping, and local today.
Yeah, this makes me think of I think some of the tension, or like back to this perception and like AI being, or search being a frontier AI product. I think people look at like the Google search homepage as like the evidence that, you know, search hasn't changed at all in the last 5 years. And because it's like the entry point, what to say, but like, I think this is like clearly search, and with AI mode and with AI overviews, it's like, it's almost like an agentic system now, end to end. So I'm curious actually how you think about the actual product experience, which like is a frontier AI experience with like the sort of landing page of search, like feeling like a classic, like it looks very similar to the way that it has the last 10 years. And like how, like, I think there's, yeah, it feels like a tough balance.
Yeah, well, the front door matters a lot in shaping people's expectations, as does also their prior experience. And so if nothing changes in your priors, they use it a certain way, you'll keep doing it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that was pretty mind-blowing was we added this little pill label for AI mode in the search box on google.com. And the AI mode has actually been out for a little while. And like, obviously people are using it and they're discovering it through the ways that you can switch the mode or in our apps. But that was a huge moment. And I saw so much chatter on social media. And it's probably when I heard the most about AI mode, because we made a change to like, obviously like a very iconic experience. And that when you click on that mode, the whole site morphs into this AI-led experience. So the box gets larger. It has natural language suggestions of things you could type in. It allows you to add different primitives into this input plate. And it feels like you're kind of getting this AI enhanced version of search now. And so obviously we want to increasingly make that as easy as possible for people. But that was one of the first experiments to start helping people understand this version of search that obviously is tuned for these more complicated needs where AI is extra helpful for people. And to me, it just shined a light on the fact that you need to really introduce people to this world, and they're not going to otherwise find it.
Yeah, I think about that all the time. Like, so many people don't know what's happening in AI, and like it really is these products. Like, as a frontier AI product, your responsibility is to sort of bring people along with the journey and teach them exactly how
Yeah.
it's.
And one of the things that we actually found was people who ask longer questions actually are having the most helpful experiences, which makes a lot of sense. If you just type a one-word thing in there, like AI is not going to be that much better at helping that one word than what you would potentially see in search, which is very optimized for, you type in like, I don't know, a single band's name. Like it's a multi-intent question. You're not really sure what the person wants. It's probably that you want a sense of what's this band, here's a description, here's their website, here's their information, here's photos of them, here's their music on YouTube. It's like a pretty optimized, excellent thing. But if you say, what are other bands that are like this band and where can I go stream them, then AI is really useful because that kind of thing is harder to get access to. And so it was like another learning for us, which is now we've added, onboarding experiences and opportunities for you to help educate people, to ask more specific, just ask normal questions. So I think people just don't realize that you could just put in like a 2-sentence or 20-sentence question right into Google now, but you can.
Personalization. I think this is one of the most exciting things. Like, obviously, search has access to a bunch of stuff that I've looked up in the past. There's all this like interesting stuff about your preferences, and my email is there, and my Drive stuff is there, and like Google's got lots of interesting data that, with my permission, you can use to like give me a really unique, interesting experience. And I'm curious, like, how far, like, where we are in that. Like, I think broadly in AI ecosystem, it feels like we're very early in the like personalized AI experience. It feels like that's the end goal, but I'm curious from like the search perspective where we are in that, the sort of ramp up of making personalization actually work for people at scale.
I mean, I think personalization is hugely important. And, at IO, we announced a first step here. I can share some more info there, which is, how do we actually make search really get to know you well? And I think we do versions of personalization today. Or if like you buy something from a specific brand and you do a repeat query, you'll see like a recently visited label, and that search result might be boosted for you. And so there's aspects of the same in the search suggest dropdowns. Those also are personalized. And I think when we see your ability for search to shape around your expectation, it just makes this efficiency because you don't have to explain everything. It's like shortcuts all the time.
Yeah.
And so imagine search had this context for you and it understood a couple key facets about you and could go even deeper through something like connecting Gmail, which is something that we talked about at IO as one of our first ways we're going to enhance personalization for our AI experiences. And then now, if you're shopping for something and you recently bought things that were related, it's really useful. And you can bring that into the context. You don't have to explain this whole history. Or if, same thing for restaurants or these areas. Again, people come to Google for it every day. But with this enhancement, with an opt-in, of course, so I think people will want this ultimately because it will make it better for their experience. We'll be able to enhance those things. And you will get a response that's very different from me, potentially. And now you won't do that everywhere. I'm going to be principled about it. Like you're asking about, facts or what happened in World War II. Like those are probably going to get specific. Yeah. But like I do think, when you're asking what should I eat for date night or like what are shoes I should consider getting for the fall, those are pretty like personal tastes matter. And I think we want to be uniquely good at those kinds of questions.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I feel like the last 10 years has been like last 20 years has been lots of people accumulating all this like digital data that's like actually not useful in any way. Yeah. Like I think about my Gmail history and I'm like, I guess it's helpful. Like one day I might search and try to find an old email, but like by and large, it's like basically useless.
Yeah.
And I feel like personalization is sort of the product form factor that makes all this data that people have accumulated over the last however many years like actually useful to them in a lot of these product experiences.
Yep, I completely agree. And it'll be really interesting to see how like what people like what the model ends up learning is most useful. Because I think similar to how the model has learned to use Google's information systems, yeah, we're teaching it how to access information about you.
Yeah.
And to do a similar process to think about it and potentially do follow-up questions to pull certain information that could be useful for a given query. So it should be fun.
Yeah. I'm curious to just take another step back, like how you think, like what's the impact long term of this, search doing all this stuff, but also just like the way that people look for information and interact with the internet and all this stuff. I feel like there's And even like we could throw in agents and how like, is it going to be a person searching for the stuff, or am I going to have my AI staff go and do a bunch of this stuff for me? Of like, so I'm curious, like broadly, what your meta takes are and how this is all going to play out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ultimately it's going to make humans more productive, efficient, and informed, because it's just there's only so much time in the day. And so you might have like had a question, but you couldn't go very deep with it because you just didn't have time. Now, like we talked about this finance question or these shopping questions, like if an AI model can reason, plan, do all these Google queries in the background for you and bring you all this information, it just saves you so much time. And it's probably time that you would have never spent searching for those things in the first place.
Yeah.
So it feels additive because it's magnified the power of what you can do now, I think. And that's going to allow people to, I think, just understand more of the world and have more information at their disposal. And then I think the second piece is doing things on your behalf. It's clearly a very large trend. And we're also taking steps in this direction, building on Gemini infrastructure for Project Mariner, so that you can have an agentic version of search. That's also really exciting. And then again, something that I think could have been, a long time of like looking around your, map of seating at a concert, trying to figure out the perfect, 3 seats that are near each other. And if you needed 2 with 1 right behind it, that's okay. But you don't want to be blocked or too high up. You just put all of that into the model, and the model could just do that, figure it out, and then just tell you if it's available or not. You can just buy it. You can confirm it and buy it. Like that's going to be pretty awesome. And hopefully that allows people to do a lot more.
I'm super excited for that. I have a random, and I'm curious to get your take on this from a product perspective. I feel like there's a lot of good memes about AI agentic products like booking tickets for people as kind of like I know it's like kind of a tongue-in-cheek example of this, but I'm curious how you think about like what, and I think you probably have a better perspective than I do about this, of like what is like the core problem that people have, and like is it actually like, do you have a sense that like it is booking some of these things? Like, is that actually like a friction point that people feel? Or is it just like from the search perspective, like it is a repetitive user action now? Like if you could sort of automate a way for people, it's like a very small incremental thing that helps, but like at search scale, that's, billions of hours saved. Whereas like actually it doesn't make sense. Like the meme is around, people building entire products to do it. So like, oh, we built an agentic AI product, and like the only thing it does is book flights for you.
Yeah.
And my sense as a product builder is like, that doesn't make a lot of sense, because like it's not really at scale a problem people have. But
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I think I agree that the actual last mile of pushing 2 buttons isn't actually probably a huge problem. Like if you want to order food and you go to DoorDash or whatever you go to, and you have your recent thing, you tap 3 things and you hit done, it's probably going to be faster than a lot of agentic things and you explaining how to do that same thing. Because like you have all these UI patterns that create these shortcuts, right? It's a visual, they have large tap targets, you can pretty quickly get through it. Explaining something actually takes a lot of work. But I think where it's annoying is where the decision is based on things like availability. Like if I'm trying to plan, go to a movie, it's like, if it's not available, I academically figured out the movie I should go to. And then I go book the ticket and I can't actually see that movie today. So that's actually a false option for me. And that's now annoying. Then I go back to my research and then I research another thing. And then I go back and I'm like, oh, that's kind of annoying. So if you were to say, where should I eat dinner Saturday at 8 o'clock with, my partner or whatever, and you actually had the agent ping for availability, make it part of the response, now it's helpful. It's like these actually are available at these times, or it could be like within plus or 2 hours or so, an hour plus or minus. And actually the way that we're approaching it, we don't even think the booking part itself is even worth doing necessarily. Like I think we'll show the options, but then I actually think the user wants control ultimately. And so you'll just have one button to tap that will just take you to a final step to confirm and go. Because it's possible that some change occurred or like something happened in the system. So I think people also just want that control at the end of the day, and that last tap isn't the issue. It's the finding and the requerying of the tool. Like if you're looking for a hotel, every time you change dates 1 day ahead, you have to redo the whole thing and look at the page and see if the room type's available. Like this just drives me absolutely nuts as like a product person, right? And so you don't have to like do that with this rolling 1-day window for 5 queries and see if like that 1 bedroom with the extra room with the pull-out couch for your kid is available. Just like the thing will do it for you. Like, thank God.
Yeah. This is a great that's a great reframing. And I think about this for restaurant reservations all the time where I'm like, maybe just don't even show me restaurants that don't have reservations today because there's a 50-50 chance I'm looking for a reservation tonight. And then I spend 10 minutes looking. It's like, yeah, actually none of the places that look good are.
Products that are out of stock or discontinued. It's
Yeah.
like, it's all of these weird kind of things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last thread about how much more important search is in the AI era, like I think there's so many threads about like as the barrier to create content and then like disseminate it onto the internet goes down as like AI tools can generate more and more stuff that like actually looks pretty reasonable in a lot of cases.
Mhm.
The value of search is even more important because it's like,
Yeah,
how do I find the like authoritative people who like
that's right.
have a strong perspective and like how do I know who the experts are, et cetera. And like when the bar to make words that look like they would be from someone authoritative goes down so much, it's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, what we're seeing too is that in general, the web is expanding. People are producing content, publishers are producing content. And so I think to your point, as a creator, as a publisher, it's easier and easier to build really high quality things. And AI is going to help that. And then hopefully on the other side, if Google is able, our belief long term is that all of these new experiences will be very expansionary. And then each of these, photos that I take that creates a whole context are new opportunities to connect with the web and to go deeper. And that's something critical.
I think vibe coding and sort of software creation is something that's like taken everyone by storm and capturing a lot of mind share. And I think has made me reflect on like what is the future of me asking questions. And you could imagine, I'm curious like how you think about this from the search perspective, but one version is like you could ask a question that roughly requires software to be built and like you could just build that on the fly for somebody in order to answer their query. And I'm curious like that's maybe the very extreme view of this world, but I'm curious like what your reaction is to that general trend and how I think it seems like there's a blurry line between like informational, but also like solving their problem as well. I don't know if
I
that,
do think there's opportunities to build these bespoke experiences for people.
yeah.
And the models already are so capable at generating code using tools like I was talking about, these graphing libraries. It seems extremely plausible that you'll be able to ask a pretty niche question. And if you needed something visualized in a different way, or you almost wanted to like do market research, it's like, do you want me to do market research for you? You're like, sure, I guess. And it like signs up for things, launches a survey, and it's like, I need like 20 minutes. And then it like runs the campaign, analyzes the data. And like, it's not that unreasonable to think that that's pretty, quickly possible for those kinds of things. When like you actually were maybe just searching for information that just didn't exist and it could create it for you. And I do think that's going to be one of the really exciting opportunities. These models just become so generally capable.
Yeah, I think there's another interesting one around travel, which is like as you like I think there's all this like weird human stuff that we have to do to like, well, what happens if I take this flight? How does that impact my
Right.
travel? Like you could just kind of like play all that out, like build a bespoke
Yeah.
simulation for someone and be
Yeah,
like,
you could.
here's what it's all gonna
Good.
look like as you so I
Yeah.
think there's
Well, I've definitely asked it like in even like a debug environment, like a pretty hard question about how to get somewhere or like how long it would take me to do something. And under the hood, I was looking at its thought process and it ended up like invoking Python and using code to do math and like wrote code to to do some calculations. And it was just like a very small glimpse at it. But you could think about that magnified to lots of degrees of freedom over time. And it could not only visualize it differently, but it could maybe like connect with people in the outside world or, do whatever it would to everything needed for me to, resolve my question.
one of the threads that is always a topic of conversation is just around like how much the collaboration to make AI and like a bunch of these products inside Google like happens across so many different teams, DeepMind, Search, I'm sure a bunch of other folks on the like infrastructure side making a lot of this stuff possible. And I'm curious like what that collaboration has felt like for you on the search side, working with all these different teams and building custom models and all this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really amazing experience coming back to Google and just seeing just how much incredible technology exists. And when you were to bring together, really the superpowers of what's possible with search, with state of the art Gemini models, you can do some pretty amazing things. And actually, when we started working on AI mode, there was really never a way to ask any question of Google search and do follow-ups. That didn't really exist. I mean, AI overviews answer a lot of questions, just can't do follow-ups. Certain questions are harder to answer. So this was a real opportunity to build a model that could really handle any question that you could think of. And the way we did it was actually to bring teams together between Search and Gemini. And we had the Strike team that actually brought together people across the company to go after, what we thought was like a really exciting moment in time where we could build on this foundation for AI overviews, but really go deeper in modeling side. And so there's a custom version of Gemini 2.5 that was formed that was really custom designed for search and these information needs that I mentioned. It understands how to use and see search information, and it understands signals from search. It understands how the knowledge base works, and when it sees information for it, it can understand it, right? There were things that we did around agentic RL and thinking about factuality and quality of reply, and each of those I think were breakthrough moments. And that was really enabled by this shared kind of co-working group, this like small scrappy team that worked to like get this new project done.
Yeah, my obligatory shout out to all the infrastructure and serving and scaling and deployment teams that actually that make a bunch of this stuff possible. It's beautiful to see them work, and it's a thankless job, and they do a bunch of hard work. So
Incredibly important.
yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. I feel like the model's getting better and better by default at using search, and also just like knowing. It's just one of those challenges for the models in general where the models don't do a good job of knowing their own limitations. So I think it'll be good. Knowing their own limitations, but also knowing like what are the things they can rely on. I feel like search is a great example where if the models can do a good job of not knowing a call out to search and make life easy.
Exactly.
One of the obligatory questions that I have to ask is sort of what the roadmap for AI and search looks like, or just search in general, over the next like 6 months, for example. What will we all see coming out of search?
Sure. So we gave a bit of a glimpse of this at I/O, but I can expand a little bit in terms of where things are going. But I think there's probably a handful of really important themes for us for the rest of the year. I think one is around multimodal. We talked about how easy it is now to have this intelligence with you everywhere and on your device, help you with what you're looking at, what you're seeing. But one thing that we're going to be adding is the opportunity for you to do that with video in addition to voice. So you can show search what you're looking at, and live, let's say you're maybe repairing a bike or cooking, like you could actually ask questions about it, and using the same techniques around, tapping into information, within Google, bringing you actually to the web, and we'll show actually links in the live view that you can tap on to read more, and you can like kind of verify, go deeper in that experience, which is really cool. That's all possible now in the live experience. So multimodal, hugely important. So it's one of the fastest growing parts of search. The second area is around visualization and richer experiences. I think, we talked about, how the model could help and how the experience can help around these more kind of inspirational questions. The other area is around personalization. So we did cover how it can be uniquely helpful to you, based on your personal context. And I think you'll see more and more, obviously starting with Gmail, there's other opportunities, I think, to have your personal context be part of the kind of model's understanding of you. And then the last piece is around agentic. So we did talk about like booking tickets and helping you do things as well. And many people, they use Google not because they're looking for information, but the information is leading them to get something done at the end of the day, right? They want to plan a camp, they want to book something, they want to book movie tickets. And so I think that's going to be a really key thing too. So those are a few. The other ones are still kind of in the works, but excited to share more as we get them out.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. Robby, this was an awesome conversation. I'm excited for the future of search. And I'm grateful for you and the team for continuing to push on all this stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It was really a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was a great conversation. Thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.